Raise your hand if you love opioids. Okay, now, all the people raising their hands, I'm sending you to rehab. I'm just joking. Mods, inject all of them with 3 gallons of horse tranquilizer, please. Damn, I got you 2 times before 15 seconds. Double bazinga'd up on a Sunday evening. So we're going to be discussing oxycodone. It is also known as Percodan, Percocet, Oxycontin, Roxycodone, and Roxybond. Our dear friend oxycodone is classified as a Schedule II substance. And for those of you who don't know, this means it is highly addictive, or fun if you're deciding to go down that path, but hey, it's your life. However, it has medical use to it, so they're not completely making it illegal. A few examples of some other drugs that are on the same schedule are fentanyl, morphine, Adderall, Ritalin, and all the fun stuff. Ah, God! My favorite drugs to abuse are all Schedule II. However will I obtain these legally? To sum it up for you. In conclusion, after all, to summarize, ultimately, to conclude, prescription. Yeah, that's right. If you want to get a Schedule II substance legally, it has to be through a doctor. Otherwise, you will have to go to a street pharmacy, and those are not regulated.
Why is there fentanyl in my Cosmic Brownie? Who the hell thought this was a good idea?
Bit of a tangent, but that is a harsh reality within street pharmacies. You think you're getting the green, but you just end up with a crime scene. Now you, yes, you, may be wondering, where does oxycodone come from? And well, it comes from the infamous opium poppy. And for the nerds out there, that is the Papaver somniferum. Oxycodone itself is classified as a semi-synthetic opioid. So although it is derived from the opium poppy, it has been modified heavily within a controlled pharmaceutical laboratory. As previously stated, the opium poppy is quite infamous, and this is because of the drugs that come from it. However, oxycodone is a bit different. So some other examples of drugs coming from the opium poppy would be morphine or codeine. Now, these two drugs have a depressant effect, meaning they slow down your brain activity, similar to benzodiazepines. On the other hand, we have oxycodone, which is directly derived from the thebaine inside of the opium poppy, and it has more of a stimulant effect to it. It can cause nervous system excitation, and you can end up having convulsions off of it, or, die. Now we shall dig into the uses of oxycodone. So you are usually going to find oxycodone working in conjunction with aspirin or acetaminophen, and is commonly used for moderate to severe pain. However, oxycodone can also be used for severe and persistent pain with its controlled release variety. With oxycodone being such a strong opioid, it is obviously abused. It's inevitable. And with oxycodone being equipotent to morphine, it can sometimes be used to prevent the onset of opioid withdrawal with heroin and methadone. Keep this between you and me though. Just because it can be used for that does not mean it is prescribed for that. You're usually going to see Suboxone or its generic variant of buprenorphine naloxone used for opioid withdrawal. Alright, no more weird whispering. Back onto the topic of oxycodone abuse. Just like many of its pharmaceutical primates, oxycodone is frequently abused, and this is because it does rewire your brain's reward system by flooding your brain with dopamine. And with your brain being flooded with dopamine and endorphins, it creates a feeling of euphoria. And with the constant flooding of dopamine, it actually reduces the number of available opioid receptors. In case you thought your subconscious couldn't be your worst enemy, you're wrong. Your brain will adapt to the amount of dopamine you are receiving, and it will require more and more of this drug to get that same euphoric effect. And fun fact, this is why so many drugs on the street are laced with fentanyl. Let me put this into perspective with a drug like heroin. Let's say you are somebody who frequents street pharmacies. Is it cheaper to take more and more heroin a day, or buy one thing of heroin laced with fentanyl that gives you that same euphoric high that got you addicted in the first place? Mind you, fentanyl is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, and is only prescribed to people who have an opioid tolerance. Fun fact, that's why such a low dose of fentanyl can just kill you. Billy Joe, who's been addicted to opioids for 30 years, can take his fent-laced heroin just fine, but Samantha, who just started, would die. Let's get back on track, shall we? In the year of 2021 alone, 21.1 million above the age of 12 were prescribed oxycodone. 2.8 million, or 13.1%, misused the product. And with oxycodone being a white-collar addiction, it means people have to go to extreme measures to get it. Some individuals will even take it upon themselves to break into a nursing home or a pharmacy to get oxycodone. Mind you, oxycodone abuse has been an issue in the US since the 1960s. Now that we have a bit of a background on oxycodone, we shall dabble into the history of it. Oxycodone was developed by two individuals. One was named Martin Freud, other named Edmund Speyer. In the year of 1916, they published the first synthesis of the drug. The year is now 1917, and it is being tested on human patients. In the year of 1928, a pharmaceutical company under the name of Merck introduced a brand new combination of oxycodone. This combination had 3 different drugs in it. The first one being scopolamine, which is used to help motion sickness or nausea after being administered an opioid, and it works by blocking the acetylcholine receptors in your central nervous system. The second variable is oxycodone. Lastly, we have a drug named ephedrine. Ephedrine is a central nervous stimulant. It is also a sympathomimetic medication. Sympathomimetic medications stimulate that fight or flight response. Your next line is, why would they add this into the mixture? This is because scopolamine and oxycodone working in conjunction can cause respiratory depression, hypotension, as well as extreme drowsiness. Therefore, adding ephedrine allowed the patients to stay sedated yet stable. So, bad news. Ephedrine is a primary precursor in methamphetamine. So as a result of this, in the modern day, ephedrine is highly regulated. However, ephedrine's chemical cousin, pseudoephedrine, is not banned, but it can only be bought from behind a pharmacy counter. Pseudoephedrine is used in over-the-counter decongestants such as Sudafed. It is also used to make meth. Yep. To counteract this DIY methamphetamine, the government highly regulates it, and you have to have an ID, and they track how much you buy. So this devious concoction that Merck introduced is essentially heroin, meth, and scopolamine.
Ah, jeez, I can't believe they put scopolamine in my heroin meth mixture. This is ridiculous.
So as with every hard drug that was introduced during this time frame, it was known as the miracle drug of the 1930s. Heroin meth was the miracle drug of the 1930s. Anyways, this devious concoction was named Scofidol, and it may have contributed to the start of World War II, but I'll get into that. Now close your eyes and imagine what I'm saying. The year is 1939. You're sitting there, inhaling that asbestos. Sitting there, breathing in that asbestos air. Your 4th child just died from the common cold. Your pet canine with the name of Harry Houdini just ate your dinner that happened to be a possum that you found in your backyard. Through all this stress, you light a cigarette and you turn on your radio. What do you mean the Polish are supporting the ethnic cleansing of ethnic Germans living in Poland? What the hell? Now, I know this might sound random, but it ties into what we're talking about. Now, hear me out. Also, you can open your eyes now. So in the year of 1939, an Austrian fella that happened to have a mustache decided he wanted to carry out a propaganda campaign accusing the Polish of organizing and tolerating violent ethnic cleansing of ethnic Germans living in Poland. Operation Himmler was a false flag project created by Heinrich Himmler. This was to create the illusion of Polish aggression, which could further justify Germany to invade Poland. A group of Germans dressed up in Polish uniforms seized a radio station and were broadcasting anti-German messages. It was then decided that the best course of action was to get concentration camp prisoners, drug them with the Scofidol, and once they were all massively overdosed, they shot them and staged the scene. Then the morning after, Mustache Man himself promptly stated, "This is justification for Germany's defense against Poland," which inevitably caused the Second World War. Then if you do a bit more digging, you find out that Mustache Man was actually receiving repeated shots of this heroin meth. Jumping into the early 1990s, the controlled release version was manufactured. This one was called Oxycontin, contin meaning continuous. It was promptly approved by the FDA in 1995 after no studies were done. After realizing how addictive Oxycontin was, the FDA commissioner at the time said, and I quote, "No doubt it was a mistake. It was certainly one of the worst medical mistakes. A major mistake." In the year of 2007, there were 42,800 emergency room visits relating to oxycodone. Also, in the year of 2007, the manufacturers of Oxycontin received a criminal charge for misbranding how addictive Oxycontin is. Then in the year of 2013, they banned all generic forms of Oxycontin because of how bad the abuse got. And we will end this video on that note.